The great hall was alive with energy, shimmering lights reflecting off the crystal chandeliers above, and the scent of wolf fire and pine filling the air. It was the night of the mating ceremony, the most anticipated event in the pack. Every wolf in attendance was alert, their instincts humming, their senses stretched to the maximum. I had never been to a full pack ceremony before. Being half human and half wolf, I had always kept to the shadows, careful never to reveal too much of myself. My mother, a healer among humans, had warned me about venturing too close to the packs, especially the Alpha King's inner circle. And yet here I was, drawn by curiosity and the hope of understanding the part of me I often tried to deny. As I stepped into the hall, all eyes seemed to flicker past me. Not that I was expecting recognition. Half-wolves were rare, and most packs were wary of them. I moved cautiously, feeling the thrill of the ceremony wrap around me like a living thing. The scent of pheromones and power was intoxicating. I tried to blend in, hoping no one would notice me. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. I looked for an empty seat, trying to stay at the edges, when I felt it, the unmistakable pull of presence. My heart skipped as I realized the seat I had chosen was directly next to him, the Alpha King himself. His aura was overwhelming, a magnetic mix of dominance and danger, the kind of presence that made your instincts scream both awe and fear. I froze. His head turned slightly, just enough to let his golden eyes meet mine. For a moment, I panicked, but tried to keep my expression neutral. Surely he wouldn't recognize me. I was just a shadow in the crowd, a half-wolf who had no place in this world. And then it happened. He inhaled, deeply, his sharp eyes narrowing as they locked onto me. The scent of my half-wolf blood reached him immediately. There was no mistaking it, his instincts flared, his senses shouting my secret in the silence between us. "You're not fully human," he said, his voice low and commanding, yet threaded with curiosity. The room seemed to hush around us, though the crowd remained unaware of the silent storm brewing at the center. I swallowed hard, trying to form words, but none came. My half-wolf nature had always been my secret, my hidden edge, and now the most powerful wolf in the region had recognized it instantly. "Who are you?" His gaze was piercing, stripping away every layer of my carefully constructed disguise. "And why are you here, sitting in my seat?" I opened my mouth, but the words faltered. How could I explain my existence to him? To anyone, without inviting danger or scorn? Half-wolves were often mistrusted, seen as unpredictable, and sometimes dangerous. Yet here he was, the Alpha King, studying me like I was some rare, precious scent he could not ignore. I didn't mean to sit here," I whispered finally, my voice barely audible. "It was an accident." He tilted his head as though considering whether I was lying. "An accident." His eyes flicked to the others in the hall briefly, then back to me. Very few can sit so close without causing ripples. And in that moment, I realized something frightening and thrilling. The ripples I had caused were not just noticed, they were recognized. My existence, my scent, my half-wolf blood had marked me. The Alpha King knew. And somehow, deep in my chest, I felt the weight of destiny shift around me. The ceremony continued around us, music and chants blending with the tension that hung between us. But for me, everything else faded. One look from him, one recognition of my true nature, and I was trapped in a tide I could neither fight nor escape. And yet a strange part of me, the wolf within, stirred with anticipation. This was no longer just a ceremony. Something ancient, powerful, and inevitable had begun. Part 2: the recognition. The music of the ceremony swirled around us, but I could no longer hear it. All I could focus on was him, his presence, his gaze, and the weight of those golden eyes that seemed to see straight through me. Every instinct in my half-wolf self screamed that I was caught, exposed, yet something deeper stirred, a dangerous curiosity I had never felt before. He leaned slightly closer, the scent of his wolf mingling with mine in the air between us. My heart raced, a wild, uneven drum beat that betrayed my panic and something else, something far more primal. I had never imagined anyone could sense me so completely, not even my own kind. "Half-wolves are rare," he murmured, almost to himself, though I heard every word. "And yet they carry a strength that most full-blooded wolves cannot even dream of." I shivered, unsure whether his words were a warning or an observation. I had always tried to hide my wolf side, fearing judgment, rejection, or worse. But here he was, recognizing me not with disdain, but with something else. Something dangerous, magnetic, and utterly consuming. "Why are you here?" he asked again, sharper this time, and I could feel the authority in his voice ripple like a blade through the room. I swallowed hard, trying to find an excuse, but none sounded believable. I just wanted to see. My words stumbled over themselves, clumsy and weak against his intensity. He studied me carefully, as if weighing my soul against some unseen scale. "Most half-wolves stay hidden," he said slowly. "They know the danger of being seen. Yet you walk into my court without fear, as if you belong." I felt a flush rise to my cheeks. Belonging. That word struck a chord deep inside me. A part of me had always longed to belong to a pack, to a place where I was more than just an outcast between worlds. But saying it aloud felt like surrender. "You have a strong scent," he continued, his eyes narrowing. "Strong and untamed. Your wolf is not hidden, it calls to me." My breath caught. Every nerve in my body screamed that I should flee, hide, deny anything to protect the secret I had guarded my entire life. And yet I couldn't move. My wolf self, wild and impatient, stirred inside me, drawn inexplicably to him. "You are unlike any I have met," he said softly, yet the intensity in his eyes made my heart hammer. "And I do not forgive intrusions lightly." I felt a shiver run down my spine. The threat in his words was undeniable, yet beneath it, there was a fascination, a dangerous pull I could not resist. Somehow he knew I was different, but he was not afraid. He wanted to understand, to claim, or perhaps to test me. The ceremony continued, the pack members around us oblivious to the silent storm between the Alpha King and me. His gaze held mine, unyielding, demanding, and yet strangely protective. I had never imagined anyone seeing me as I truly was, and now, under the scrutiny of the most powerful wolf in the pack, I was raw, exposed, and trembling with a mix of fear and desire. Finally, he leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper only I could hear. "Do you understand what it means that I can sense you?" I swallowed hard, unsure how to answer. My entire life, I had hidden this part of myself, and now it was out in the open, laid bare before the King of Wolves himself. I think so," I murmured, my voice trembling. He smiled faintly, a dangerous, knowing smile that made my pulse quicken. "Then know this," he said, his golden eyes locking onto mine. "Once I have sensed you, nothing will ever be the same." The weight of his words settled over me like a storm, thrilling and terrifying all at once. I had stepped into the mating ceremony thinking it was just a night of ritual and tradition. But now I realized I had stepped into a destiny that would change everything. And there was no turning back. Part 3D. The Test of Fire. The music of the mating ceremony seemed to fade into the background, leaving only the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. The Alpha King had shifted slightly in his seat, his presence pressing against me like a living force. I had never felt such intensity, both terrifying and thrilling. "You're hiding more than just your bloodline," he said quietly, his voice low enough that only I could hear. "Your wolf, it's strong, untamed, and yet restrained. Why?" I hesitated. Revealing too much could be dangerous. Half-wolves were often feared because of their unpredictability. And yet something about him, the way he looked at me, the way his scent seemed to curl around mine, made it impossible to lie convincingly. "I've had to control it," I admitted, my voice trembling slightly. "Most of the time, I try to hide what I am. I've never been able to trust anyone with this part of me." His gaze sharpened, and for a moment, I felt as if he were peering straight into my soul. Then he leaned closer, just enough for the warmth of his presence to brush against me. "Strength hidden is wasted strength," he murmured. "And you have far more strength than you realize." A shiver ran through me. His words were a warning and a promise all at once. I could feel my wolf stirring inside me, responding to him in ways I had never allowed before. "You will need to prove yourself," he continued, his golden eyes never leaving mine. "Not to me alone, but to this pack. If you are to sit here, if you are to survive in this world, you must show them that you are not merely half of something, but whole." My pulse quickened. A test. I had anticipated scrutiny, suspicion, but this was something different. This was a challenge issued by the most powerful wolf in the realm, and the thought of failing terrified me. "I will try," I whispered, my voice barely audible, but filled with determination. He inclined his head, almost imperceptibly approving. "Good," he said. "But know this, once your wolf has been seen, there is no turning back. The pack will watch, they will judge, and I will be watching you, always." I swallowed hard, the weight of his words pressing down on me. My wolf howled silently within me, sensing the thrill of the challenge, the danger, and the undeniable pull between us. Then, as if testing me further, he extended a hand, not threatening, but commanding. "Come with me," he said. The hall seemed to blur around us as I followed. Every step felt surreal. I was stepping not just beside the Alpha King, but into a world I had always feared and longed for in equal measure. The scent of his wolf mingled with mine, stirring instincts I had never dared to acknowledge. Outside in a secluded courtyard, the night was alive with moonlight and the crisp scent of pine. He turned to face me, his gaze intense. "Show me what you are," he commanded. "Show me your strength." I hesitated only a moment before letting the wolf within rise. My senses sharpened, my movements became fluid, and I felt the raw power of my other half coursing through me. The Alpha King's eyes gleamed, approving, and yet there was a glint of something else, a hunger, a curiosity, a desire to see how far I could go. "You are stronger than I expected," he murmured, stepping closer, his presence overwhelming yet intoxicating. "And far more dangerous than I imagined." My heart raced, and I realized something terrifying and thrilling. I did not want to hide anymore. Not from him, not from myself. As the moonlight bathed us both, I understood the truth of his words. Once seen, once tested, nothing could ever remain the same. The ceremony, the pact, my life, all of it had shifted in a single moment. And I was ready, trembling and alive for whatever came next. Part 4. The Eyes of the Pack. The moon hung high above the pack grounds, casting silver light across the courtyard. I could still feel the lingering heat of his presence. The way the Alpha King's scent seemed to wrap around me like a tether I could neither resist nor escape. "You are different," he said quietly, his golden eyes scanning me as though measuring every heartbeat, every breath. And because of that, the pack will notice. They always notice. I nodded, unsure what to say. My wolf stirred impatiently within me, sensing the challenge ahead. The thought of facing the full scrutiny of an entire pack was terrifying, yet exhilarating. I had always lived in the shadows, half human, half wolf, never truly belonging anywhere. But now, here, with him, there was a spark of something I had never dared to hope for, a place, a chance, a connection. He stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. They will test you, he continued. Some will fear you, some will envy you, and some will try to harm you to prove themselves. His gaze softened just a fraction, almost imperceptibly. But I will not let them. You have my protection for now. The words sent a shiver down my spine. Protection from him was not just a comfort, it was a warning. He was the Alpha King, and yet, he treated me differently. He saw me. He recognized my strength, my danger, and perhaps even my worth. The next morning, the ceremony resumed with the pack fully assembled. Wolves of all ages and ranks watched us carefully, their eyes sharp, their postures tense. I could feel their curiosity and suspicion, their whispered judgments brushing against me like a cold wind. He seated me at his side, the closest anyone had ever allowed a half-wolf to sit in the great hall. Some of the elders frowned, some of the warriors shifted uneasily. But he didn't flinch. He was steady, unyielding, and I realized with a jolt that as long as I was near him, no one could truly challenge me. Still, the scrutiny was intense. Do you understand what it means? One of the older pack members whispered to another, to sit beside the Alpha King. A half-blood, no less. I felt my pulse quicken, my wolf bristling with instinctive pride and defiance. I was no longer invisible, I was seen. And while that brought fear, it also ignited a thrill I could not ignore. The Alpha King's hand brushed against mine subtly, a light, almost casual touch, but it sent an electric jolt through me. His eyes met mine, golden and piercing, and I knew he could feel the same current that ran through me, an undeniable, primal connection that neither of us could ignore. You have their attention now, he murmured quietly, just for me. Do not disappoint them or me. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the moment settle over me. I was no longer a shadow in the pack. I was a force to be reckoned with, a half-wolf who had been recognized and claimed by the most powerful wolf of all. And in the silence between us, amidst the scrutiny of dozens of sharp eyes, I realized something even more dangerous. The pull I felt toward him was growing stronger with every heartbeat. It was no longer just fear or curiosity. It was something raw, unstoppable, and thrilling. The mating ceremony had begun as a test of the pack's hierarchy. But for me, it had become something far more profound, a trial of identity, strength, and the first sparks of a bond that could not be denied. And deep down, I knew that whatever challenges awaited, whatever eyes watched and judged, I would face them. Because beside the Alpha King, I was no longer hiding. I was finally alive, part Fiffy trials and sparks. The sun had barely risen over the pack grounds when the Alpha King summoned me. My wolf stirred with anticipation, alert to every nuance of the morning air. Today, I would be tested, not just in front of him, but in front of the entire pack. You've shown promise, he said as I approached, his golden eyes sharp and calculating. But promise is nothing without control. Half-wolves are powerful and dangerous. You must prove that you can harness your strength. My heart pounded, but I nodded. I understand, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. He led me to the training arena where seasoned warriors were already preparing, their muscles coiled, weapons at the ready. The pack watched closely, some with curiosity, others with skepticism. Every eye was on me, and I could feel my wolf bristle under the weight of their attention. First, he said, show me how you move. Show me your wolf's reflexes. I focused, letting my senses sharpen. The world slowed slightly, colors and sounds sharpening as I tapped into my wolf instincts. I leaped, dodged, and moved with fluid precision, surprising even myself with the ease of my movements. The Alpha King's lips curved into a faint, approving smile. Good, he murmured. But now the real challenge. A set of sparring partners approached, wolves who had trained their entire lives under the pack's strict hierarchy. They moved to test me, their intent clear, to see if I could survive among them, to prove that I belonged. I fought with everything I had, not just strength but strategy. My wolf guided me, instincts sharpening my reflexes and predicting my opponent's movements. The pack watched in stunned silence as a half-wolf, someone they had once dismissed, matched, then surpassed their expectations. Finally, the last warrior fell back panting, and I stood, heart racing, triumphant and alive. The Alpha King's gaze met mine, and in that moment, something unspoken passed between us, a recognition of power, potential, and a connection deeper than the mere physical. You are stronger than most full-bloods, he said quietly, his voice low but commanding. And yet there is more. A bond awaits, one you cannot yet understand, but it will change everything. My pulse quickened at his words. I had never felt such an intense pull, a connection that was both terrifying and intoxicating. He was testing me, yes, but there was more. Desire, challenge, recognition, and perhaps something more intimate, unspoken, simmering just beneath the surface. As the pack watched, murmuring among themselves, he stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from him. You will sit beside me at the next gathering. he whispered, his golden eyes locking with mine. "And the pack will see you as I see you, my equal, my strength, and perhaps something more." I swallowed hard, my wolf stirring within me, sensing the dangerous allure of his words. I had entered this world as an outsider, a half-wolf hiding in the shadows. Now, I stood at the precipice of destiny, recognized, challenged, and drawn to the most powerful wolf I had ever known. The trials were only beginning, and deep down I knew this bond, this pull between us, would not just define my place in the pack, it would define my life. And with that realization, I felt my wolf howl silently in triumph, anticipation, and something far more thrilling, desire. Part 6e, the first spark. The evening descended on the pack grounds like a velvet curtain, the moonlight spilling across the forest clearing where the next gathering was to take place. The great hall had been too formal, too rigid for what was about to unfold. Tonight, the Alpha King had summoned me to a more private part of the territory, a place where the pack could see, but not interfere. "You've proven your strength," he said as we walked side by side, his golden eyes scanning the shadows around us. "Now I must see your heart. Strength alone is not enough to survive in my world. You must show that you can endure, that your spirit is aligned with mine." I swallowed, the weight of his words pressing on me. My wolf stirred within, eager yet cautious. To endure meant exposing myself, not just physically, but emotionally, and I had rarely allowed anyone to see that part of me. The clearing opened up to a small grove lit by firelight. Wolves of various ranks lingered at the edges, observing, their curiosity palpable. He stopped in the center and turned to face me fully. "Do you trust me?" he asked, his tone soft yet edged with command. My voice faltered. Trust had always been difficult for me, especially with my hidden nature. But looking into his eyes, I felt something pull me forward, something deeper than fear. "Yes," I whispered finally, my words small but firm. He smiled faintly, a dangerous, magnetic smile that sent a shiver down my spine. "Good," he murmured. "Then let us begin." The first exercise was subtle yet revealing. He asked me to close my eyes and feel his presence, to synchronize with him, to allow my senses to attune not just to my wolf but to him. My heart pounded as I obeyed, and slowly I could feel the invisible tether forming between us, a connection of scent, instinct, and something far more intimate. "Feel it," he instructed, stepping closer. "Your wolf, mine, the bond forming. It cannot be denied." I felt it, a pull stronger than anything I had experienced before. My wolf stirred in recognition, and I realized my instincts were drawn not just to him, but to the part of myself I had tried to suppress. Desire, fear, trust all intertwined, impossible to separate. "Good," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Most would falter here, afraid to acknowledge what they feel. But you are not afraid." I opened my eyes slowly, and he was so close that I could feel the warmth radiating from him. My breath caught. There was no denying it now. The attraction between us was electric, undeniable, and terrifyingly mutual. Before I could gather my thoughts, he reached out and brushed a strand of hair from my face, his fingers lingering just a moment too long. "You belong here?" he murmured, his golden eyes locking onto mine. "Beside me, within my pack, and perhaps closer than you ever imagined." My heart raced, my wolf stirring in a mix of anticipation and fear. Every instinct in me screamed to yield, to trust, to embrace what was happening. Yet a part of me hesitated, because giving in meant everything would change. Once recognized, once claimed, there would be no turning back. The gathering watched silently from the edges, unaware of the electric tension vibrating between us. The Alpha King and I stood in the firelight, two halves of a bond neither of us could deny, yet both aware of the trials still to come. And deep down, I knew that this spark, the first undeniable spark of desire, connection, and recognition, would ignite a fire neither of us could control. The mating ceremony had begun as a test of strength and identity. But for me, it had become a trial of the heart, a journey that was only just beginning. Part 7e, Claiming the Bond. The following dawn broke over the pack grounds like fire spilling across the forest. The morning air was crisp, filled with the scent of pine dew, and the lingering tension from the night before. I could feel it even before I saw him, the Alpha King's presence, magnetic and commanding, drawing my instincts toward him like a tide I could not resist. He approached me with measured steps, his golden eyes scanning the clearing, noting every movement, every reaction. "Today you will learn what it means to be recognized," he said, his voice low but carrying the weight of authority that made my wolf bristle in both excitement and fear. The pack had gathered, curious and wary. Whispers rippled through the crowd as they watched him take my hand, a subtle gesture, yet one that announced to all that I was no longer invisible, no longer an outsider. "Everyone," he began, his voice cutting through the murmurs like steel, "this half-wolf is not only a part of our world, but a part of my pack. She has proven her strength, her courage, and her spirit. She stands beside me." Shock spread through the pack, eyes widened, jaws tightened, and a few younger wolves exchanged uncertain glances. Half-wolves had always been seen as unpredictable, sometimes dangerous. For one to be openly acknowledged by the Alpha King was unprecedented. Some dared to whisper envy, others doubt, but his golden gaze swept over them. A silent command: "Question her at your peril." My heart pounded as I felt the weight of his protection settle over me, a shield I had never known. Then, he drew me closer, his presence overwhelming and intoxicating. "Do you understand what it means?" he asked, just for me, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "Once recognized, the bond is binding. Your wolf and mine are connected now, and that connection will shape our destiny." I nodded, barely able to breathe. My wolf stirred wildly within me, sensing the undeniable truth of his words. This was more than recognition. This was claim, acknowledgement, and a promise wrapped into one powerful presence. The tension was not lost on the pack. Some stepped back instinctively, their own wolves sensing the surge of power and connection radiating from us. Others watched, captivated, caught between fear and awe. His hand lingered on mine, and for a brief heart-stopping moment the world seemed to narrow down to just the two of us. "You are mine," he murmured, his voice both possessive and gentle. "And I will not allow anyone to challenge you or us." A thrill ran through me, a mix of fear, excitement, and something far more profound, belonging. I had spent my life hidden, cautious, fearing discovery. Now recognized by the most powerful wolf in the realm, I felt a surge of pride, confidence, and an undeniable attraction I could no longer deny. The Alpha King's golden eyes held mine, and in them, I saw not just recognition but desire, curiosity, and the promise of something far greater than either of us had anticipated. The pack could watch, judge, and whisper, but in that moment, none of it mattered. I had been seen, claimed, and drawn into a bond that would shape everything, my strength, my place, and my heart. And as his hand tightened around mine, I felt the first true spark of a connection that was no longer just instinctual. It was personal, intimate, and utterly inescapable. The mating ceremony had begun as a test, but now it had ignited something far more dangerous, a bond that could not be broken, and a fire that neither of us would be able to resist. Part 80 Sparks and Shadows. The sun dipped low behind the forest, casting long shadows across the pack grounds. The air was thick with anticipation, the tension between pack members palpable. Since the Alpha King had publicly acknowledged me, whispers had spread like wildfire. Some admired my courage, others scowled in envy, and a few younger wolves looked on with thinly veiled resentment. I stayed close to the Alpha King, feeling the warmth of his presence as a shield against the curious, sometimes hostile eyes of the pack. My wolf stirred, sensing every glance, every flicker of intent, and I knew instinctively that challenges were brewing. "Do not let them see fear in your eyes," he murmured, his golden gaze locking with mine. "Fear is weakness, and they will try to exploit it. You are stronger than they know." I nodded, trying to steady my racing heart. His hand brushed against mine, a fleeting touch, yet enough to send shivers down my spine. It was intoxicating, grounding, and terrifying all at once. My wolf stirred, wild and impatient, drawn to him in ways I had never allowed before. The first challenge came quickly. One of the pack's warriors, a tall, broad-shouldered wolf with sharp eyes, stepped forward during the evening gathering. "You claim a half-blood as your equal?" he demanded, his voice loud enough to carry through the clearing. "Do you not see the risk? She is not fully of our kind." The Alpha King's eyes narrowed, his golden gaze piercing the challenger like a blade. "She has proven herself," he said evenly, his voice cold with authority. "Do not test her worth, or you will answer to me." The pack fell silent, sensing the danger in his tone. The warrior's stance faltered under the weight of the Alpha King's presence, and I felt a flicker of pride mixed with fear. My wolf surged, sensing the protective energy radiating from him, the silent promise that I would not face this alone. Later, in the quiet of the courtyard, he drew me aside. "They will always test you," he said softly, his hand brushing my cheek, "but know this, my bond with you is stronger than their doubt, stronger than any challenge. Your strength, your courage, it is mine to recognize and mine to protect." My pulse raced at the closeness, the intimacy, the undeniable pull of desire simmering between us. I had spent my life hiding my true self, yet here with him, I felt raw, exposed, and alive in ways I could never have imagined. He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. "Do you feel it?" he whispered, his lips close enough that I could feel the heat of his breath. "The bond, the connection between us." I nodded, my wolf howling silently in agreement. I feel it," I admitted, my voice trembling. He smiled faintly, a dangerous, magnetic curve of his lips. "Good," he murmured. "Because it cannot be denied, and it cannot be undone. The pack may test you, may envy you, may challenge you, but know this, you are mine. And I will not let anything or anyone break that bond." The tension between us was electric, and for the first time, I allowed myself to meet his gaze fully, to acknowledge the pull I had been resisting. My wolf stirred with anticipation, desire, and a sense of belonging I had never known. As the night deepened and the pack slowly dispersed, I realized that the mating ceremony had become more than a test of strength. It was the forging of a connection, a spark that would ignite a fire neither of us could control. And in the shadowed quiet of the forest, I knew this was only the beginning. Challenges would come, rivals would test our bond, and the desires simmering between us would soon demand more than whispered words and stolen touches. The Alpha King had recognized me, he had claimed me, and my heart, and my wolf, knew that nothing would ever be the same. Part 90 Trials of the Heart. The days following the public acknowledgement were a whirlwind. The pack had begun to adjust to my presence, some with respect, others with thinly veiled hostility. Every glance, every whispered word, every subtle challenge reminded me that being recognized by the Alpha King was both a gift and a test. I stayed close to him as often as I could, letting my wolf draw strength from his proximity. Each time our hands brushed, each time our eyes met, I felt a jolt of something dangerous and intoxicating, desire, trust, and an undeniable bond that went beyond instinct. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees and painted the forest in shades of gold and crimson, the Alpha King called me to a secluded training ground. "Tonight," he said, his voice low and commanding, "we train not just your body, but your connection to me. Your bond will be tested, and you must respond as one." My pulse quickened. I had trained physically under his watchful eyes, but this was different. This was about our connection, the unspoken tether that had been forming since the moment he recognized my half-wolf scent. He stood before me, and I could feel the raw energy radiating from him, pulling at me like a tide. "Close your eyes," he instructed, his voice soft yet undeniable. "Focus on me, on us, and let your instincts guide you." I obeyed, letting my senses heighten, letting my wolf rise within me. I could feel him, his heartbeat, his breath, his power mingling with mine. Our connection deepened, a silent rhythm that pulsed through every fiber of my being. "Good," he murmured, his hand brushing mine, sending sparks of heat through me. "Now, trust me completely." A test followed, a simulation of a pack ambush. Wolves I had spared with before now moved as opponents, attacking and testing my reflexes, my instincts, and my bond with him. With every maneuver, every dodge, every instinctual strike, I felt him guiding me, our movements syncing perfectly, as if we were two halves of a single force. When the final wolf fell back, I opened my eyes to see him standing close, his golden gaze fixed on me with a mixture of approval and something far more intimate. "You are ready," he said quietly, almost reverently. "Not just as a warrior, but as my mate, as my equal, and as the one who shares my bond." My heart raced and I felt my wolf surge with joy and anticipation. The connection between us was no longer subtle or tentative, it was undeniable, raw and thrilling. Then, in a moment that made my breath catch, he stepped closer, his presence overwhelming and irresistible. "Do you feel it?" he whispered, his lips just inches from mine. "The pull between us, the bond that cannot be broken." I nodded, unable to speak. My wolf held silently in agreement, thrilled and unafraid. He smiled faintly, a dangerous magnetic curve of his lips. "Good," he murmured. "Because what comes next will demand everything, your strength, your trust, and your heart. Are you ready for that?" I swallowed hard, my pulse racing. "Yes," I whispered, feeling the thrill of the unknown, the danger, and the undeniable pull of desire. He leaned closer, his breath brushing my cheek, and for the first time, I felt the spark of something more than instinctual connection. It was desire, trust, and the promise of a bond that would shape everything in my life. And in that moment, under the silver light of the moon, I understood the truth. The mating ceremony had begun as a test of strength and identity, but it had ignited a fire of passion, connection, and destiny that neither of us could resist. The pack may have watched, rivalries may have simmered, and challenges may have come, but my place was clear. Beside the Alpha King, recognized, bonded, and claimed, I had finally found where I belonged. Part tendon, the bond unleashed. The forest was alive with the sense of twilight, the air thick with anticipation and the subtle hum of the pack's energy. Since the training and the public recognition, I had grown more aware of my bond with the Alpha King. It wasn't just instinct or scent anymore. It was something deeper, something that pulled at my heart and my wolf in ways I couldn't ignore. He approached silently, his golden eyes locking onto mine with that same magnetic intensity that always left me breathless. "Tonight," he said, his voice low and commanding, "we solidify what has begun. The bond between us must be recognized fully, by the pack and by us." My wolf stirred, sensing the gravity of his words. I had felt sparks before, electric touches and stolen glances, but tonight felt different. There was no hesitation in him, no doubt in the pull that drew us together. We stood in the center of the clearing, the moonlight cascading over us. The pack had gathered around the edges, murmuring quietly. Even the most skeptical wolves were drawn to the tension, the undeniable energy radiating from the Alpha King and me. He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. "Do you understand what it means to be bonded to me?" he asked, his golden eyes piercing mine. I nodded, my pulse racing. "Yes," I whispered. "It means trust, strength, and connection." "Good," he murmured. "And desire. It means we cannot deny what is between us." My heart skipped a beat as he closed the small distance between us. The heat from his body radiated to mine, my wolf stirring with both anticipation and longing. I had spent my life hiding my true self, but here, with him, hiding was impossible and unnecessary. Slowly, deliberately, he reached out, brushing a hand against my cheek. His touch was gentle, commanding, and electric all at once. "You belong here," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "With me, beside me, as my equal and more." My breath caught. The world seemed to narrow down to just the two of us, the bond, the scent, the undeniable connection pulsing between us. I felt his wolf brush against mine, instinct meeting instinct, a silent acknowledgement of trust, strength, and desire. Then, without another word, he leaned closer, and for the first time, our lips met. The kiss was slow, deliberate, and searing, a mixture of claim and connection. My wolf howled inside me, a pure expression of exhilaration and recognition. The pack watched silently, yet none dared interrupt. They could sense the power of what had been forged. When we finally parted, his forehead rested against mine, and I could feel the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, the silent promise in his golden eyes. "You are mine," he murmured, and for the first time the words didn't terrify me, they thrilled me. "Yes," I whispered, my own voice trembling with awe and longing. "I am yours." The bond between us had shifted from recognition to claim, from instinct to choice. Every challenge, every jealous glance, every whispered doubt from the pack had melted away in the heat of that connection. Tonight the mating ceremony had transformed completely. It was no longer a test or a ritual. It was the beginning of a destiny we would face together, side by side, wolf to wolf, heart to heart. And as the moon bathed us in silver light, I realized one undeniable truth. I had finally found my place, my power, and the fire that would never let me go, because I was not just a half-wolf anymore. I was the Alpha King's mate, claimed, bonded, and completely alive, part lover and acceptance and fire. The morning after our bond was publicly sealed, the pack grounds buzzed with quiet murmurs. Wolves lingered in clusters, exchanging glances, whispers, and subtle gestures. Some were awed, others skeptical, and a few dared to scowl. But one thing was undeniable: my place beside the Alpha King was no longer a question, it was a fact. I walked beside him, my wolf alert, sensing every flicker of tension and every spark of curiosity. His hand brushed mine occasionally, just enough to remind me of the bond we shared, the claim he had made, and the protection that came with it. Each touch sent a shiver down my spine, igniting my wolf, my desire, and my confidence. "You've made them uneasy," he murmured, his golden eyes scanning the pack. "But it is temporary. Strength, presence, and confidence will command respect faster than words ever could." I nodded, swallowing the lump of nervous anticipation in my throat. My wolf purred under his presence, proud, exhilarated, and fiercely protective. I had never imagined being seen, recognized, and claimed in such a powerful way, and yet, beside him, I felt alive in ways I never had before. The first true test came when a group of rival wolves approached during the midday training session. Their eyes burned with envy, and their movements were sharp, almost predatory, designed to challenge me, to see if I truly belonged. I squared my shoulders, my wolf surging within me. The Alpha King stepped beside me, his presence a shield, but also a silent challenge. "Do not falter," he whispered, his voice low but commanding. "They will respect strength. Show them you are more than half, you are whole." The sparring began, quick and fierce. I moved with precision, instincts heightened, wolf senses guiding my every step. Every dodge, every counter, every controlled strike was a declaration I belonged. I was no longer just a half-wolf. I was a force to be reckoned with, recognized, and claimed. The rivals faltered, some stepping back, others eyeing me warily. I could feel their grudging respect forming. My bond with the Alpha King radiated between us, unspoken but undeniable, and it amplified my presence, my strength, and my confidence. After the exercise, he pulled me aside, close enough for only the two of us to feel the intimacy between us. "They will come around," he murmured, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "Strength, loyalty, and the bond we share, they cannot ignore it. And neither will you." My heart thudded as his thumb brushed my cheek. "I won't," I whispered. I belong here. With you." His lips curved into a faint, possessive smile. "Good," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "Because our bond isn't just about strength, it's about trust, desire, and connection. And we will face whatever comes together." For the first time, I felt the full weight of what it meant to be his mate, not just recognized, not just claimed, but truly bonded. My wolf purred in contentment, my heart raced, and I realized that this was only the beginning. As the sun set, painting the forest in gold and crimson, the Alpha King drew me close. "No matter what challenges come," he murmured, his forehead resting against mine. "You and I, we are stronger than anything they can throw at us." I closed my eyes, savoring the closeness, the fire in my chest, and the undeniable truth of our connection. The pack could watch, rivals could challenge, and the world could test us, but I was no longer afraid. I belonged, and beside him, I was ready for anything. Part 12. Shadows at the edge. The forest had grown eerily quiet, the usual hum of the pack subdued under a tension that prickled the air like static. Rumors had reached the Alpha King, strangers, rival packs, and poachers prowling near the borders of the territory. It was the first true test that neither of us could face alone. He called me to the edge of the forest, where the shadows pooled under towering pines. His golden eyes scanned the darkness, sharp and alert, every muscle coiled with readiness. "Tonight," he said, his voice low but firm, "you will see why our bond matters, not just to us but to the survival of the pack." My wolf bristled, heart hammering, instincts screaming with anticipation and fear. I had trained, sparred, and proven my strength, but this was different. This was real. Life and death could tip the scales, and I would have to rely not just on my instincts but on the connection between us. The first shadows moved, figures slinking through the trees, unfamiliar and dangerous. The Alpha King placed a hand on my shoulder, grounding me. "Trust me," he whispered, his breath warm against my ear. "Our bond is stronger than fear." I nodded, feeling the surge of our connection pulse through me. The world sharpened, the scent of danger, the brush of leaves, the rhythm of his heartbeat in perfect sync with mine. Together, we were a force that could not be ignored. The attackers emerged fully from the shadows, a rival pack, their eyes gleaming with malice. They circled, testing, challenging, underestimating us. But they had not accounted for the bond between a half-wolf they had dismissed and the alpha king of the territory. The fight began. Instinct and strategy merged as we moved together, wolf and mate, mind and body sensed. Every dodge, every counter, every strike flowed with unspoken communication. My wolf surged in exhilaration and recognition, feeding on the alpha king's presence and our shared power. He moved beside me, golden eyes blazing, and I felt the thrill of the connection deepen. It was more than instinct, more than survival. It was trust, desire, and the undeniable strength of two halves united. When the last rival faltered, retreating into the shadows from which they had come, we stood together, breathing hard, hearts racing, bodies flushed with adrenaline. His hand found mine again, firm and possessive, grounding me even as my wolf purred in triumph. "You did well," he murmured, his voice rough with approval and something more intimate, stronger than I even imagined. I looked up at him, the firelight of our victory reflected in his golden eyes. "We make a good team," I whispered, my voice trembling with awe and exhilaration. He stepped closer, his forehead resting against mine, his breath mingling with mine. "More than good," he murmured. "We are bound, and nothing, no threat, no rival, no fear can break what we have." My heart raced, and I felt a thrill of something far beyond survival, desire, connection, and belonging. The Alpha King had recognized me, claimed me, and now, in the face of danger, our bond had been forged into something unbreakable. The forest was quiet once more, the shadows retreating, but the fire between us burned brighter than ever. I had faced fear, challenge, and uncertainty, and I had done it with him. My wolf purred, my heart soared, and I knew without doubt that no trial could ever undo what had begun. Tonight, the bond was no longer just recognized. It was unleashed, fierce, undeniable, and ours. Part 30 Claim and Desire. The night air was heavy with the scent of pine and the lingering warmth of the day's sun. The pack had gathered once more, this time in the central clearing, for the evening ritual. But the energy around us was different. No longer whispers or skepticism. Tonight there was acknowledgement, curiosity, and the unmistakable tension of desire that seemed to radiate from the Alpha King and me. He walked beside me, his hand brushing mine deliberately, a silent assertion of possession and bond. My wolf stirred eagerly, sensing the magnetic pull between us and the approval, or at least the reluctant respect of the pack. "You've proven yourself in more ways than strength alone," he murmured, his voice low, intoxicating, sending shivers down my spine. "And now it is time for the world to see what I claim as mine." My breath caught. Claim. The word was both terrifying and thrilling. My wolf bristled with pride and anticipation. I had lived my life hiding, cautious, never fully seen. But now, beside him, there was no hiding. There was only recognition, power, and desire. The pack watched in silence as he drew me close, his golden eyes locking with mine. "You are mine," he said, his voice resonating with authority and longing. Claimed, bonded, and recognized. There is no turning back. My heart pounded, my wolf howling silently in exhilaration. "Yes," I whispered, my voice trembling with both awe and longing. "I am yours." He smiled faintly, dangerous and magnetic, before leaning down and pressing his lips to mine. The kiss was slow, deliberate, and consuming, both a claim and an acknowledgement of everything that had formed between us. My wolf surged, reveling in the connection, the desire, the undeniable pull that had grown stronger with every passing day. When we finally parted, the Alpha King rested his forehead against mine, his breath warm, his golden eyes softened with an intimacy reserved for only the closest bonds. "The pack will accept this," he murmured. "They may murmur, they may doubt, but they will see what I see, a mate, a partner, a force beside me." I nodded, feeling a thrill of belonging unlike anything I had ever known. The Alpha King had not only recognized me, he had claimed me, and in that claim was protection, desire, and the undeniable truth of connection. As the night deepened, we walked side by side through the clearing, our hands entwined, our wolves aligned, and our hearts beating in a shared rhythm. For the first time, I felt truly whole, no longer hiding, no longer half, but complete in the bond we had forged. And in the quiet shadows, with the pack watching, I realized something dangerous and exhilarating. I was not just his mate. I was his equal, his partner, and the one who would stand beside him through every challenge, every threat, and every desire that awaited us. The mating ceremony had begun as a test, evolved into recognition, and now it had reached its most dangerous and thrilling stage, a claim of heart, wolf, and soul. And there was no turning back. Part 14 Done, Fire and Protection. The night was alive with the sounds of the forest, yet I felt a deeper rhythm pulsing beneath it, the steady, commanding heartbeat of the Alpha King beside me. Since the claim, the bond between us had grown stronger, more tangible. Every glance, every touch, every whispered word resonated with desire, trust, and action neither of us could deny. We walked through the pack grounds, hand in hand, my wolf attuned to his every movement, his every instinct. The pack had watched the claim, and murmurs of acknowledgement had begun to ripple through the ranks. The younger wolves looked on with fascination, the elders with cautious respect. Some of the warriors still tested the edges of their curiosity, but I could feel their recognition forming. I belonged here, I truly belonged. Suddenly, a rustle of movement near the tree line set my wolf on high alert. Shadows shifted unnaturally, outsiders approaching, testing the territory. The Alpha King stiffened beside me, his golden eyes sharp and unyielding. "Stay close," he murmured, protective, possessive, yet calm. "We will face this together." Instinct surged within me, my wolf rising with anticipation. I moved in perfect sync with him, our bond guiding every motion, every defensive stance. When the outsiders fully emerged, their intentions clear, the Alpha King stepped forward, his presence radiating raw power. "They dare challenge my territory," he said, voice low and dangerous. "On my mate, they will learn respect, or they will regret it." The confrontation was swift but controlled. Every strike, every dodge, every coordinated movement between us was seamless. Our bond was no longer subtle, it was visible in the strength, the instinct, and the magnetic pull that radiated between us. My wolf howled in exhilaration, feeding on his power and the undeniable connection that tethered us together. After the threat was neutralized, he drew me close, holding me firmly yet gently. "Do you feel it?" he whispered, his lips brushing my ear. "The fire, the bond, the strength we share?" "Yes," I breathed, my heart pounding, my wolf thrumming with power and exhilaration. "I feel it, everything." He smiled faintly, golden eyes softening with intimacy and desire. "Good," he murmured, "because it will only grow stronger and no one, no threat, no rival, no fear will ever break it. You are mine and I will always protect you." The pack, who had been watching from the edges, could no longer deny the connection, the bond, the undeniable truth of us. Murmurs shifted from skepticism to awe, from doubt to recognition. I had been claimed, protected, and recognized, not just by the Alpha King, but by the pack itself. As the night deepened and the forest hummed with quiet life, he pressed his forehead against mine, his golden eyes soft and yet intense. "No matter what comes," he whispered, "we face it together, wolf to wolf, heart to heart." And in that moment, I realized the truth I had been longing for my entire life. I was no longer invisible, no longer half hidden. I was his, bonded, desired, protected, and fully alive. The fire between us burned brighter than ever, and I knew this was only the beginning of a bond that would shape everything in our lives, now and forever. Part 5: Desire and Possession. The forest night was quiet, yet the air between us crackled with tension and unspoken longing. Since the claim, every glance, every brush of skin, every shared breath had carried an electric charge. My wolf hummed with anticipation, my heart pounding in rhythm with his, and I realized that the bond we shared was no longer just instinct or protection. It was desire, raw and undeniable. He stepped close, his golden eyes locking onto mine, piercing, commanding, yet laced with a gentleness that made my pulse race. "Do you feel it?" he murmured, voice low, husky, and intimate. "The connection between us, the pull you cannot resist." I swallowed hard, my body reacting before my mind could catch up. I feel it," I whispered, voice trembling. My wolf stirred wildly, eager and impatient, drawn irresistibly to him. Without another word, he drew me into his arms, his strength surrounding me, his scent intoxicating. My breath caught as he pressed his lips to mine, slow and deliberate, claiming yet tender. The kiss was a mixture of fire and reassurance, of desire and protection, igniting every nerve in my body. "I've claimed you," he murmured against my lips, his hand sliding down to rest possessively on my waist. "And I will never let you go. You are mine in every sense, heart, wolf, and soul." My wolf howled in exhilaration, my pulse racing, my body responding to every touch, every word. "Yes," I breathed, my voice trembling with longing. "I'm yours?" He deepened the kiss, his hands holding me close, his golden eyes blazing with possessive desire even as he softened, brushing a thumb across my cheek. Every instinct in me, the human, the wolf, the half-hidden parts of myself, thrummed in perfect harmony with his, feeding on the connection that had grown stronger with every challenge, every test, every touch. Pulling back slightly, he rested his forehead against mine, breathing heavily. "The pack may watch," he whispered, "but they will understand soon enough. No one can break what we share, and no one can come between us. You are mine, and I am yours." I nodded, overwhelmed and exhilarated, my wolf purring with anticipation and joy. "I know," I whispered, my lips brushing against his, "and I want this, all of it, with you." His grin was dangerous, magnetic, and full of promise. "Then you will have it," he said, pulling me closer again. "Every challenge, every trial, every desire together, always." The forest held its breath as we stood entwined, two halves of a bond that was now fully recognized, fully claimed, and fully alive. The Alpha King's possessive gaze, his unyielding claim, and our growing desire had transformed the bond into something undeniable, something fierce, intimate, and unbreakable. And in that moment, I understood fully I was not just his mate. I was his equal, his desire, and his partner in every challenge, every battle, and every moment to come. The fire between us burned hotter than ever, and I knew that nothing, not the pack, not rivals, not danger, would ever extinguish what had begun.